Pilot. Pilot is one of the only tanks that still has this passive, where damage you take slowly recharges your ultimate. Um, Gunner used to have this, and Veteran used to have this passive, but now it is just Pilot. And I think Anchor also might have had that passive. I believe he did have that passive at one point. Um, but Pilot's the only one left with it, and Pilot would be so much stronger if they just gave her a different passive where she just had like, um, I don't know, more damage, or like something like some cool passive would be really nice. But it's whatever. So her ultimate is the Silverback, where you just summon a Silverback, and the Silverback is based on what cards you have. So if you don't have any cards for the Silverback, you won't have any guns on it. So when you're first starting out, you don't have any guns until level 2, and then even at level 2, you only have a cryo cannon, and you don't get your next thing until level 6. And yeah, keep that in mind when you're playing Pilot. Though I doubt anyone's leveling Pilot up these days. So this is the drop shot build, where your only focus is to use the drop shot, and then you just have the bleeding mulcher on there for your bosses and for your bastions. Like if you have a pesky bastion or sentinel or guardian that you can't really hit with the drop shot, you just summon the Silverback, or you're about to die, you just summon the Silverback and then kill stuff with the mulcher. The Silverback is based off of your look sensitivity. So if you have your look sensitivity very high, that's what your aim is going to be like on your Silverback. So keep that in mind. So the hammer gives you 80% extra damage and then 4 seconds of stun. There's also a glitch with this card where you can fire the GL, swap over to the drop shot, and then you can have a stunning GL, and there's no range limit on this card, so then your GL can stun from any distance, which is pretty OP. And then Pilot, I'm going to go over her perks now instead of at the end. So she has health, she has ammo capacity, damage, and ultimate cooldown. You don't need ultimate cooldown whatsoever. You want to go for that like last. Instead of ultimate cooldown, you would want to go for damage, because you're going to do so much damage that you'll get your ultimate back very fast. Then ammo capacity, you want to go for first, because then when you have a locker of drop shots, they'll all only have 4, but if you get your ammo capacity to 10, then you have 8, and then in the later game, once you have those 8 drop shots on one, then you only really need like 2 to 3 slots on your level 4 locker. So then you'll have plenty of drop shots. And then you want to go for your damage after your capacity, so then your drop shot will one shot the initial target. The target that you put your drop shot on, like pretty much directly, will like always die if it's a drone, and an active shot of course. But then anything past like the right where the drop shot is, they won't instantly die, but they'll be stunned and they'll be very weak. So you just put out a second drop shot. It's not really a big deal. Bleeding mulcher, it bleeds for half the damage it does, a little over half, 55%. It's very strong, especially with cold finish. Cold finish, when they're less than 25% health, you start to do freeze, and then at level like 5 and 6, you just kind of instantly freeze them with like one shot. That freezing damage, I'm pretty sure it's just like how much or how fast they get frozen, basically. So it takes how much damage you did with the shot and puts it as like freeze. So, but anyway, you can freeze stuff in like 1 to 2 shots if they're at that threshold. And freeze makes you do a lot more bleed damage, and then more damage from all sources just by a little bit anyway. So cold finish is really good, especially paired up with the bleeding mulcher. So they're bleeding, they freeze, and then they just die. That's basically how it goes. And for the bosses, you melt them down with the mulcher, and then they go down, they go down, they go down, they get frozen, and then you hit them for more damage. Your bleed's doing more damage, so then pretty soon they'll die. Great for Wakatus. Yeah, really great for Wakatus because you get the mulcher, and then you freeze them. But by the time they're frozen, they're pretty much just like kind of stuck there in the air, and then sometimes they do like to go back in the ground after you basically kill them, which is kind of annoying. Moving on, aggressive armor. Any damage you do, any hit you do, gives you 6 stim, which is pretty good, especially in the early waves where you got the enforcer and you're just running around with that, and then you just like one clip stuff, and then the aggressive armor pairs well with the enforcer in the early waves while you're waiting for your locker. Healing explosives. So this card, you use the drop shot, and say you're 1 HP, this will heal you all the way up to full, and then aggressive armor will activate. So you'll be full health, so then you can get stim. Because aggressive armor, you have to be full health to get the stim. It's one of those stim cards. But with healing explosives, it doesn't matter because you're going to be using the drop shot, and then you'll just get your stim, and it makes Pilot very have some crowd control because you got the stun, you got the heal, you got the stim, so you can actually play up in the middle of the front middle of Overload, and then you can take that right spawn, and then as long as your teammates cover your back, so the left side of Overload, then you could just keep on firing into that spawn. So you get like a level 4 barrier on the left, and then yeah, you're pretty much good, and you can just sit there and have a whole spawn, which is pretty funny. Silverback Salvo, I don't really like this card because, well, I'm just not like a whole silverback guy. I just use the drop shot and the mulcher on the silverback. And then you can use the salvo, it's pretty cool. It extends the duration by a significant amount. And then if you have a tactician, Tactician's ultimate, when he's perked up, will refill your salvo, so you can have more than your, I think, 40 shots that it comes with by default. So that's pretty cool. Healing tri-shot, if you didn't want to, like, you could take off healing explosives, and then you could put healing tri-shot on. There is kind of a problem when you use healing explosives. I'm pretty sure it's this card that causes it, where whenever you have your stim, you can't kill yourself. It's just impossible. You can't kill yourself with frags, you can't kill yourself with shocks, incendiaries, you can't kill yourself with a boom shot. You just can't kill yourself. So whenever you have stim, yeah, you can't kill yourself for your drop shots. So make sure that whenever you're filling up your locker, you don't have your stim. So you kind of want to get as many kills on yourself as you can, so then you can just get your 4 drop shots while you don't have stim. So then you don't have a wave where, like, there's the last guy, you accidentally hit him, and then you don't. Then you have your stim, then you can't kill yourself, no more drop shots. But you can work around it. You just gotta make sure you don't shoot the last guy and you get hit by him. Silverback Scorcher, I haven't used this card since they fixed it, because I did try it out when it first came out, but then the Scorcher was shooting at the ground. So then I was just like, yeah, that doesn't work, because like I'm looking basically at the sky and it's still shooting at the ground. I think it's okay because the Scorcher's just kind of okay. Because it's not going to be active Scorcher rounds, it's going to be standard Scorcher rounds. So even if it does do like 120% more damage, it's not going to be that great because there's no active. So there's no fire pool on the ground, so it's just not going to do a whole lot. If you're trying to kill a matriarch with the silverback, and that's what you want the silverback to do, probably use the salvo and the cryo cannon. Just freezer and then use the salvo, because the salvo, you know, hits the matriarch regardless of if you're hitting her back or not. Same with the cryo cannon. The cryo cannon freezes her from the front. Deep pockets, this card's garbage. even in escape, like you don't need more Talon ammo. You don't use the Talon. Initiator, there's no point in this card because it doesn't work on barriers anymore. A lot of Pilot's cards used to work on barriers, but this doesn't work on barriers. And when is an enemy going to be full health? It's not very common. They're most likely going to be hit by a barrier, so then they're at 99% of their health instead of 100. And so this card, I don't think there's a use for it. Even there might be on some weird escape map, but that's about it. Wingman, actually a decent card, because if you have 2 teammates up and then there's you, then you get this ultimate recharge. So if 2 of your teammates die, you can have a lot faster recharge, and you already get it back fast. So then you also do the perk, and you're doing damage with the drop shot. Then you can have a silverback build going on here with this card. Or like, if you're doing 3-man runs, then you could put this card on and do a silverback build. So that's pretty neat. Good escape card, because when it's 2 or less teammates remain, so you have 2 teammates in escape. So you could just use this card in escape and get your ultimate back pretty fast. Enforcer Expert, I don't recommend this card. I mean, maybe if you're on a lower difficulty than Master, but if you're on Master, yeah, I wouldn't recommend using this card, because in the later waves, like past like 10 and 50s, or like past probably 4, honestly, in Frenzies, you don't want to use the Enforcer because it has such a short like range that you can play with. Like, you basically have to be right in front of the enemy, and Pilot does not specialize in that, because even with aggressive armor and the freeze, like, it doesn't matter because you don't have any substantial damage reduction. You have rear armor, but that's only from shots taken behind. So unless you're like some person who's crazy with the mouse, I guess, like you run up, you shoot, and you turn around the second they start firing. But I highly doubt that like you want to play like that. Exploding Buzzkill, this is pretty neat because of explosive munitions. So you go in defense mode, and then your kills do damage based on like what you did. So at level 6 here, it does 85% splash damage. So 85% of the splash damage, like the damage that you did, is put at splash. And then the Buzzkill already has splash damage. So then I think you get a double explosion here. So that would be pretty neat for like AoE clear. You have the Buzzkill and the explosive munitions for double explosions. So then you kill like one juvie, and then it'll do a double explosion and kill whatever drones are around. Healing munitions. So this card, you don't need it because healing explosives is bugged to where it works on the silverback too. So then you just use healing explosives and you don't need healing munitions. It's kind of funny. But I suppose you could use that card, but yeah, there's not really a point. Quick Ice Cannon, it's 50% increased freezing speed, so it's pretty neat. It's a little bit better than a standard cryo cannon, so then it's actually pretty good. But it's just not for me. I don't like using the cryo cannon and like the salvo. I just use the mulcher and that's it. Rear armor, like I said, it's just not a very great card because it's only from hits behind. I don't even really... I used this card for a little bit when I was leveling Pilot up, but after a while you don't need it, especially when you have healing explosives and aggressive armor. Like, that's your survivability right there. And then they get stunned too from your drop shots, so you're pretty much good on survivability. And then you just use your drop shot, put it in the middle of groups, and make sure everything gets stunned. For bosses, I can't remember if it still works, but last time I played pilot. It was a few updates ago though. Well, like I really played pilot. You could summon the silverback and have a teammate get in it, and they would still have your bleed damage. No one would get the kill, but the enemies, you know, they'd still be bleeding by that mulcher. So then they would still die. So you could give somebody your silverback and then have them go around and like kill the boss while you are stunning it. Now, I don't remember, or I don't think it still has the bleed, but even if it doesn't have the bleed, you could still give like I don't know, someone, like you could have a robotics expert. They hit their ult, they get in your ult, and then they use that mulcher on the boss while you stun them. So you do that. Or like if you've got some garbage class, like say someone who's low level, or you have a, I don't know, no, actually, I guess if you have an architect, I don't know. Most of the classes do some pretty decent damage. So then you don't really need to give them your silverback. But yeah, you can have someone go in your silverback and you can stun the boss. And then, yeah, like I said, you can use the GL with the hammer card. So you could run GL and drop shot. So then you'll have 6 GL rounds and you'll have 8 drop shots. So then you'll have a lot of explosives. And then you could do 2 and 2 on your locker. You could do 2 GLs, 2 drop shots. Yeah. That is pilot.